Hey you guys, welcome to the Chelsweets kitchen. Today we're going to be decorating another edible cookie dough cake. People cannot seem to get enough of these cakes. I've had a zillion orders, it feels like, the past few weeks. So I'm going to decorate this one a little bit differently than the ones I have in the past. Of course, it's going to involve a little bit of colored ganache because who doesn't love a bright pop of color? But I'm going to mix it up a little bit by putting a really nice centerpiece on top of the cake, and it's going to be kind of like white chocolate bark. So it's basically white chocolate that I've melted down and then formed into kind of a wave as it cooled. And I've swirled some color into it with edible food coloring, and I've also put some little pieces of cookie dough into the bark. So when we put it on here, hopefully we'll have a really big impact and it'll look really beautiful. So we're going to add the ganache strips, and I'm also going to throw some edible cookie dough around the top to really signify that this is a cookie dough cake. I'm also going to put baby chocolate chip cookies because they're adorable, and some additional chocolate chips around it while we decorate. So just to remind everyone, white chocolate ganache, when I make it, is pretty much equal parts heavy cream and white chocolate chips. So I take a bowl, a microwave safe bowl, and I pour about half a cup of heavy cream into it. I then pop it in the microwave for about a minute or maybe 45 seconds until it just starts to bubble. I then pour in some white chocolate chips, about a half cup as well, and I let it sit for about 2 minutes because that allows the chocolate chips to really soften up, the white chocolate chips to soften up. I then stir it until both the chocolate chips and the cream are fully incorporated and it's smooth and beautiful. And then I drop in a little bit of gel food coloring of whatever I'm trying to make. So for this one I did sky blue, swirled it in, and then I let it cool a little bit so it's not quite as runny. I then pour it into these square bottles and let it come to, I guess I let it cool until it's just the right viscosity. So this you can see like right immediately when I turn it, it's coming out. So that should have a really nice drip down the side. It's not too thick. It's really hard to get the viscosity right because if it's too runny, it's going to start dripping off your tray. If it's too thick, it's going to be kind of chunky. And so it's hard to know. You just kind of learn as you go. And it's always good to do test strips. I do that every cake because even though I've made ganache a zillion times, sometimes you might use a different brand of cream or a different kind of white chocolate. And also you never really know, I don't take the temperature of the ganache, so I don't know what the ideal temperature is. So it's always good to test as you go just to make sure you really have the ganache at the right drippage level, I guess, is the best term. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I was going to start with the blue, but I think I'm actually going to start with the yellow. And let's test this. Looks like it's pretty good. So I'm going to pause and I'm going to get a close-up of the cake so you can really see it as it drizzles. Alright you guys, so here we go. We're going to start with the bright yellow ganache, which I have infinite ganaches in my fridge if you could only see. I'm going to do a test strip first. Let's see how it turns out. Looks pretty good. It's going down a decent length. So what I like to do is you can either alternate and go around and do, varying, or you can kind of group your drips. So you could put all yellow, all pink, all purple, all blue. And in the past I've done a lot of kind of random like pink, blue, red, like drips alternating, but I've really been liking the patches lately. So I think I'm going to do that today. So we're going to keep going with this. Do another couple. And we're just going to fill into the center a little bit. Beautiful. Next up, we're going to do some pink. So we'll do the same thing. First do a test strip just to see how it's coming along. So this one is fine as well, so we can go ahead and keep going with it. And we'll fill into the center as well with this. So I'm going to keep going around. Let's just make sure those are going long enough. I love when the two drips combine into one it kind of just like brings all of the different drips together. So I'm going to keep going around and alternating colors. And last but not least, some purple. Alright guys, I really like the way that looks. I think that's beautiful. Next up I'm going to do some swirls with some buttercream that I put into a frosting bag with an open star tip. And I filled it a little bit too full. As you can see, it's like exploding out the top. So learn from me and always leave a little bit of extra room up top. But if you don't, you can always make do. So I'm gonna make a bridge here by just going like this, kind of doing a swirl around and then back. Then I'm gonna spin. Gonna keep going with that same pattern. Perfect. I'm gonna do a little bit, one more round over these ones. They turned out a little bit shorter than the rest. Perfect, okay. Once you get a nice ring on there, we're gonna fill in the center with more buttercream, so that way when we put the other toppings on, they'll be elevated enough to be seen. And then we're gonna start nestling in our cookies and our edible cookie dough. So I'm gonna put a little baby ring of edible cookie dough. I'm gonna put 5 pieces on here. I think that's about all we can fit. And then I'm gonna shove, I guess I shouldn't use the word shove, delicately place some of the mini chocolate chips in between each one. So now it's time to see if we can fit our white chocolate bark. So this is the white chocolate bark that I made, guys. And as you can see, I've used some very interesting techniques. I used some Toblerone bars to help give it its shape while it's cool. So it's kept its shape very nicely. You can see it's in the shape of a wave. I'm going to slide this over. So I think I'm going to trim it just like this. You want to be gentle because you're not trying to break the whole thing of bark. You just want to get it to a size that you can use. So I'm going to cut it. So for our white chocolate bark, which is very colorful and covered in sprinkles and edible cookie dough, I'm going to cut it diagonally into some big shards so we can stick that into the middle of the cake and it can really have a beautiful look. So I'm going to put this one in first and I'm going to trim down the bottom just so we can really fit it in there. So this we're going to nestle in just like that. So that's looking good. I want to do one more big shard. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, it's just you want a bright, colorful pop in there. So I really like the way this is looking. That looks great. So we'll just drop in a little edible cookie dough wherever we can. And that'll help keep the pieces in place. So the last thing this cake needs is some more sprinkles. I am a huge sprinkle fanatic, and this is a 7-pound jug of sprinkles. And what I like to do when I'm sprinkling sprinkles on the top of a cake is just get out a spoon, slide my sprinkles over here, and just kind of drizzle some over the top. Guys, I'm gonna have to get another pound or another jug of sprinkles. I'm almost out. So I'm just trying to get as many sprinkles as physically possible into these crevices. I'm going to put a few more cookie dough balls on the back of the cake just to help secure the bark. And because I think whoever's eating this cake is going to enjoy the extra little bits. Okay, so I think that's about as much as I can literally fit on this cake. Which is the goal. So we're doing good, guys. Okay, so as you can see, there's just like a mound of edible cookie dough back there. Definitely enough sprinkles. Might put some white chocolate chips in there just as a little bit of a pop of color and some regular chocolate chips to help mix up the sprinkles. Alright guys, and with that, I think we are done with this edible cookie dough cake. Alright you guys, so here's the finished product. Very colorful, very bright, and copious amounts of edible cookie dough. Thanks so much for joining me, and hopefully you guys can subscribe so you can see more of my videos in the future. You can also follow me on Instagram at Chelsweets, and feel free to check out my blog at chelsweets.com. Thanks you guys!